we may be witnessing the continuation of a brand new video series. It's entirely possible. Hi, my name's Jim. I'm with CGC Sports Illustrated. I haven't been posting unboxing videos lately because CGC has really kind of slowed down. Their wait times have really increased significantly, and I don't have any new boxes from CGC to open. So somebody posted in the Facebook group, Jim, miss your videos. And somebody else commented and said, hey, why don't you just do a video showing some recent raw issues, ungraded issues that you've picked up recently? And I thought, oh, okay, whatever, I'll try it. And I did that last week. Turned out to be pretty popular. So maybe I'll turn this into a brand new series. Don't know what to call it yet. Raw issues of the week? No, that stinks. Raw dogging it. There you go. I'm raw dogging it. Here we go. Just wrote that. Let's take a look at some issues that I purchased recently, and there's some interesting ones in here that you probably won't, but maybe never seen before or wouldn't think that I would find interesting. So those are always fun for me. So let's take a look at this number one. What the heck is this? This is Fantastic Films, the magazine of imaginative media. July 1980, and you can see it's got R2-D2 and C-3PO on it. This was right around the time when Empire Strikes Back hit theaters. I buy collections a lot, and I've talked about this a lot. Usually when you buy a collection, you really only want maybe a couple pieces, maybe 10% of a big collection. Maybe 10% of a big collection, you're like, yeah, that's what I want. But most of the time, you've got to take them all. And so that's what happened with this. There were a couple of cool Time magazines that were Star Wars related. It was a huge Star Wars magazine collection. And there were some Time magazine ones that I wanted, and the guy was like, nah, I don't want to break it up. Take it or leave it. You got to take them all. So I took them all. And as I'm sifting through all these oddball Star Wars publications, I thought that there were a handful of them that were pretty cool. So again, this Fantastic Films. This is issue number 17. It came out in July 1980. Now, I can't tell you, I was surprised. A couple of these have been graded. There is a 9.6 and there is a 5.0. This one's in great shape. Might challenge that 9.6. Probably more like a 9.2 after I clean and press it. Oh, and then I got to show you the back. Let me take it out of the bag and board. Look at that. Ads for the Dungeons and Dragons book. Player's Handbook, the Monster Manual, Dungeon Master's Guide, TSR, Hobbies, Inc. That just screamed 1980 to me. R2-D2 and C-3PO on the cover, and an ad for Dungeons and Dragons books on the back. So that one was pretty cool. I thought that was fun. I think I'm going to get a couple. There's a couple of these that are really cool that I think I'm going to end up getting graded. So that should be fun. Here's another oddball. To Sports Illustrated, probably don't recognize this because it's not talked about, and I don't know how collectible it is, but this is November 29th, 2004. That is the Pacers' Ron Artest on the cover. This is the Malice at the Palace issue. Ridiculous, crazy fight that started on the floor and ended up going into the stands, and you had NBA players like pummeling fans in the face up in the stands of the Palace in Auburn Hills outside of Detroit. I love how these magazines capture moments, and it's what makes Sports Illustrated magazine collecting really different than a lot of other sports memorabilia outside of game-worn memorabilia. Game-worn memorabilia, for the most part, is almost exclusively about moments. But it's really different, especially from sports cards. Sports cards don't capture moments. Although I will say Topps Now has been pretty smart. And what Topps has done with Topps Now, where they issue kind of live cards. For example, you could buy a card that captured the Shohei 50-50 moment. They did a bunch of those, and they're doing more and more of them recently. I think it's really smart on Topps' part because it helps them do something that they've never done before, and that's capture moments. But Topps Now has only been around for a few years, so there's been so many great sports moments that sports cards just don't capture, and so that's where Sports Illustrated comes in. And Malice at the Palace, while not something that's certainly not celebrated by sports fans, just a ridiculous, crazy thing that happened. I remember watching that game live. I'm like, there's no way that this is really happening. So I thought this was a really tough one to find in newsstand. Took me a long time to find this. Finally got a couple copies of it. And I think it's interesting. I think it's cool because it's about moments. So if you don't remember the Malice at the Palace, let's go to the tape and check it out.
The Pacers have played a very intelligent game tonight.
Then Wallace is fouled, and Wallace did. Oh, Wallace right at our chest. This has potential to be serious if they don't get between. Wallace upset. Players trying to hold each other off. Steven Jackson and Rasheed Wallace trying to be peacemakers. Now Jackson yelling. Wallace still going. You need the coaches in there to get him away. Jackson challenging Derek Coleman. Somebody should just get Jackson out of quickly as possible. The problem is, if Wallace is ejected, I'm not sure. He'd have to walk past the Pacer bench to go. Now Artest has jumped over the scorer's table and is trying to get down to the bench. Artest is in the stands. Oh, this is awful. Fans are getting involved. Steven Jackson's in the fans. Rasheed Wallace going into the stands. The security trying to somehow restore order. Fans and players are going at it, and the players trying to help each other out.
This is a disgrace.
All the players now, they're jumping in there to try and get the other players out because the fans have come involved. Oh, what a sad scene here at the Palace. And now another fight's breaking out in front of the Pistons bench. It's a fan on the court. This is very, very dangerous. Fans are throwing cups with liquid in them now onto the court. Ron Artest has a look in his eye that's very scary right now. You wonder if the official's going to let this game continue. Now they're throwing bottles out onto the floor.
Just crazy. What a disaster that was for the NBA, and just a ridiculous moment. Okay, next up, this one's great. Caitlin Clark, Slam magazine. This is Slam 252, just came out. This is Caitlin Clark's first Slam Pro cover. You've seen the her first cover. It was in her Iowa uniform. I've shown that a ton on my videos. But this one just came out from Slam, and this is her first Pro cover. It's her first cover in her Indiana Fever uniform. I love this one, and I think it's really important. I always talk about slab label notes, and I think that that's something that I wish more in the hobby would research and request first pro covers, because that is a really important designation, that transition. If, the athlete has a cover in college, that's great. That's their first cover. Wonderful. It's also worth noting and telling that story on the slab that this is their first pro cover. The other thing that I love about this, I talked to had a great call with the president of Slam Magazine. He's awesome. He's a collector at heart. Love everything about the guy. They don't do very many in-game action shots on the covers of their magazine. Most of their cover shots are studio photos. And I told him, I said, hey, collectors and me especially, we want more game action shots. So not saying that I could take any credit for this. He was probably like, okay, that's cool, whatever. Because they like their studio photos better. But I'm like, hey, I get that. You do what you need to do for your business. But from the collector's perspective, we love those in-game action shots. And that's what you've got here with Caitlin Clark in her Fever uniform and her first pro cover. This is a beautiful looking piece. Beautiful piece there. Okay, next up. Time Magazine, Coach Prime, Deion Sanders on the cover. This was from last year, October 23rd, 2003. The Believer, how Deion Sanders is changing football forever. I'm fascinated by Deion Sanders. I mean, how could you not love Deion Sanders when he was playing? When he put that hand behind his head and he was high-stepping into the end zone, that was just like the coolest thing I've ever seen. And I love what he's doing at Colorado. Had a much better year this year than he did last year. I don't want to call this a conspiracy theory, but I still think there's a chance that he could be the head coach of the Dallas Cowboys next year. So very cool issue of Time Magazine with Coach Prime on there. There's Really tough. Again, I've talked about this a lot. Modern Time magazine, very fragile, very condition sensitive, very difficult to get a high grade. The highest grade on this one is 9.4. There's 2 copies of that, and then there's 2 at 9.2. So I think this one's got a shot at either tying 9.4 or maybe even breaking it. Okay, last one here. Kevin Garnett. First Sports Illustrated cover. This is from June 26th, 1995. Again, really, really condition-sensitive issue. A ton of these have been great. It's Kevin Garnett, Hall of Famer, played for the Timberwolves, won an NBA title with the Boston Celtics. Very collectible. 9.8 in existence. That's it. I've probably gotten this issue graded nearly a dozen times. I think I got one 9.6. And then some 9.4s and 9.2s. So this has been a chase issue for me. I'd love to get that second 9.8. I think this one has an outside shot. Those are the raw issues that I purchased recently. I hope you like this video. If you're interested in my magazine and comic cleaning and pressing service, you drop a comment or you find me on social media. I'm on every social media platform. It's the same username as here. It's CGC Sports Illustrated. Just shoot me a DM if you got ideas for videos, if you got questions. I am fortunate that when I started doing this, I always said, okay, I'm going to respond to every DM, every comment, every text message. I'm going to help people get into this hobby and get excited about it. And I still have the ability to do that. Barely. I can barely keep up with my DMs these days. But if you got questions on this hobby, find me on social media. Shoot me a DM. I'm always happy to help. And as always, for you, I appreciate it. Thank you so much for watching.